another Friday. My name is Marietta, and I thought, because of many clients asking me how I do a psychic reading, I want to explain to you how I started off and how I do psychic readings and what I would advise you if you've started with tarot cards or numerology or some other system like astrology, because in the end, those systems are just an introduction to help you to then read, in inverted commas, another person. So many years ago, I used to use runes, numerology, the tarot, and I studied these systems in depth, and astrology. And initially, I would lay down the cards after saying a prayer, just sitting still by myself, asking for guidance, asking for protection. I would also have crystals around me to help me with regaining and recuperating and giving me some extra energy to protect also my environment, like black tourmalines and obsidians. And then I would have the person about a meter away from me so that it's not too close in my aura. And I would initially put down the cards for them, where later I used to not read the cards anymore, but make a drawing of the person, then focus on that drawing and look at the chakras, the aura. The aura is the energy field around a person, where then would look what kind of people would come through from the other side, or what warnings would come through that they could go around or do something about it, because it wasn't set in stone that those things would happen in their lives. And then certain incidents which were mostly shown as those were definitely challenges coming into their lives, or incidents or happenings coming into their life, like a new relationship or a pregnancy or a warning for a car accident or whatever would come through. I would see it in different spaces around the aura whilst focusing on this drawing that I had in front of them of the person that I was reading. Very important is that one actually knows that this is a channeling, so it bypasses your normal thinking. It's not what you think, but it is an opening up to a higher realm. It's an opening up and being completely surrendered to what comes through. Very often, I do not even ask what you want me to read, although nowadays I do ask certain people that book for shorter sessions, because I do want to answer what they think is very important to them, which might not be important to divine energies or God in the bigger sense of the reading. But I do wish nowadays to actually answer certain questions that people really want answered. But when I have a reading like yesterday with a young man in Korea, and he just wanted me to read whatever came through, and then I could go in my own pace, and it was actually beautiful how things just fell into place, because he was supposed to be moving in the next 5-6 months, going to another job. I read that he was really stuck where he was at the moment. And all these messages came through. It's not something, when you are a clairvoyant, which is somebody who has visual images, and psychically, which is all the feelings and the knowings, then you get all these impressions and you can give them, you can hand them over. So the person that you read is of importance in the sense of that they need to have the patience, they need to have the respect and the understanding that this is not a process like with a lawyer. You cannot hammer your clairvoyant or your reader or your astrologist or whoever is doing a channeling for you with your mental mind, because it's very harsh, it's very hard, and it can actually disturb or hurt the energies of the person who reads you. So be aware that channeling for another person, you need to fully trust your reader. You need to trust that they will come through with the right answers. It's also your input that plays a role in the reading. Very often, how much you hear and want to hear and actually accept. In other words, how much do you welcome the messages, as the person who reads you is just the messenger. Where a normal reading is different to a mediumship reading, it's like channeling on two different channels, because the people from the other side come through another channel. So it's a different kind of tapping, tuning into a different kind of level to bring them through. Although often in a complete reading, people who really want to come through, they will press through and they will come through, although you're busy concentrating on the relationship and the work issues and the children and the grandmothers, grandfathers, and all this daily stuff that we have that are full of challenges. The psychic readings is something where people like myself also, we do not really need, when we are really good in reading another person, it's reading their energies. We do not need to see you in person. So telephonic, WhatsApp video, WhatsApp call, Zoom readings are just as precise as face-to-face. In fact, I've been doing telephone readings from the mid-late 80s onwards, and I usually like those readings more, as one is not so personally involved, which you don't need to be. And even over a telephone or a cell phone or a WhatsApp call, I can shapeshift. So shapeshifting, a lot of readers can do that. In other words, I can place myself into your lounge, into your house. I can cleanse your space. I can come and give you healing. When I shapeshift, I can even do healing and give you healing at night, if that is what you wish me to do. That's why I also do my healings via distance and not in person, because it's all about frequencies, and there is no space and no time when we do a reading. Although I've learned to be time-wise quite correct, because I predict time like 3 years, 4 months, 4 weeks. So time is a man-made thing, and so is years, and space is very much part of our physical experience, but not part of the spiritual realm and the spiritual experience. For me, it's that I'm actually totally detached from where you're at. And after a reading, very often, it's that we close off to your issues, your problems, your life. So if you then meet us 3 years later, 3 days later, it might just be that we remember maybe your face, or even the least that I remember is always the face, because I read your energies. I don't really see you as a physical being. So it's not disrespect, it's just how it works, that it's not like a normal talk where you really listen to that person, but it's a channeling on a different level. And when you finish off the reading, most readers need to then close off the session with also washing their hands, with a prayer of closure, and believing that you gave your best to the person sitting opposite you. The problem often comes in when you then make your own stories in your own heads. So it's always advisable to record the reading so that you can listen into it again, and then you can hear other things, because language is very restrictive for a spiritual reading, because language only gives you, say, 5 sentences, where the reader or the clairvoyant or the clairaudient, which is hearing, or the clairsentient, which is the psychic, has these images, these feelings that he or she then puts into words, which might be words that don't agree with you. Like I had a person who said, how come that you said my father was powerful? He was never powerful. He was a kind and gentle person. Well, you assume powerful to be a certain meaning, which I didn't do, because powerful for me is a very strong character, is a very loyal, strong. It can be a gentle energy, of course. It's a person that you don't easily forget. It's a person who keeps to commitments, who keeps to his goals, who keeps to his visions. So very often language can go astray if you assume it to be in a certain way, but the reader tries to give you a certain word, but it doesn't mean the same thing to you than to her or to him. So it's very important to understand that reading is being given in a certain time frame and being interpreted by the reader in a certain way to try and give you the messages that came through. I am a clairvoyant and clairsentient and claircognient because my Akashic record readings I definitely do with the knowing, in other words, not with vision, but with knowing and a specific protocol, how one goes into the Akashic records and then reads your soul purpose or reads your soul origin. Also, the healing is done on a completely different level, where my hearing, when people really want certain names, is not very clear, because I prayed years ago to have the hearing taken away because it was just too noisy. When the senses are very much developed, evolved, we do sometimes decide to close one sense off to protect ourselves and our own nervous system. A shaman, I am also a shaman, where a shaman can actually direct negative energies back to the sender, so it can actually protect you very much. A shaman doesn't take on a psychic attack from you per se, but can send it back and can heal certain negative energies that are being sent to you. Good readers can heal on distance, can see on distance, definitely work with a certain spiritual practice like prayers, meditation, rejuvenation practices, or with crystals, with candlelight. I always have candles burning for the symbol of light and love and laughter and a higher frequency. I do not work with dark energies because I do not want to vibrate and reside on a dark level. So I do not go into those levels. And when you make contact with a person from the other side, it needs to be from a perspective of wanting to have the loved one give you messages that are loving and kind and that you feel good about it. And it also feels good for the reader to actually give you those messages because they are in love and in kindness and in making the connection from a loving perspective. It takes a lot of energy, which needs to be always rejuvenated, recharged afterwards by every and each reader. And it's not like the normal energies of maybe selling houses or selling certain goods or doing any kind of other business, because it's really that you link to a person, you connect to a person, you even take over that person in a certain way, and you have all those feelings of the other person, like a book that you read, like an autobiography that you read, and afterwards you sit with the whole life and the whole book of life of that person within yourself, and it often really creates very tiresome energies or even nauseating energies, because it's a lot of energies that then need to be cleansed again for the reader themselves. So when you choose a reader like you choose a psychologist, a doctor, a dentist, that you trust that person, and that you know that when you respect that person, the right energies will come through for you. And those are the messages that basically come through. Don't shoot the messenger, because the reader is only the messenger. The energies that are being used are very much on a high frequency when a reader is channeling on a high frequency and also on a spiritual level and wants to bring through positive things. But it is lovely to read people who follow a certain spiritual path and who actually respect their reader and also respect certain boundaries. We are not God, so we cannot be 100% always correct. We give advice. In other words, we show the best way forward so that you are free, joyful, healthy, and moving forward in your life, which sometimes means that we do advise you to get out of that abusive, toxic relationship. But if you stay, that is your responsibility. We cannot take the responsibility for your actions. So very seldom I have people who come back, or I had one person in the last 4 or 5 years that came back and said, but nothing came true that you said, which is a very rare thing that happens with my readings. But then I know that that person somewhere along the line made different choices. In other words, the responsibility lies with you. And if you take different choices and you make other choices, you follow a different path than what was really meant for you, or that would have been best for you at that time where the reading was done. I wish you well for today, and have a wonderful weekend, and lots of love, laughter, and light always. Go to my website if you want to book for a reading on mariettatiernissen.com.